writer, Kerry, the Kyle Blue Smith, and we're gonna talk about your comic book, A Black-Eyed Susan. And Kerry, you are a man of many talents, a father, a husband. You also work um, in the disability community as well. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and everything that you do? Poetry, comics, it all.
Yeah, so for the most part, I got out to, the creative community, doing poetry, going different open mics, and then I started putting together, different shows, poetry shows, some music events, and as well as some comedy events. And my style of performance has been a mixture of comedy and poetry, a little improv, monologue, things of that nature. And I also work in the intellectual disability field, as well as mental health, and help people, with all various, physical and mental, disabilities, and make sure that they're safe in the community. And I also had experience before working in special education, and I also did ABA therapy. I was an ABA specialist, and that was a lot of inspiration being amongst that field. Um, Kind of helped me create the story of a black-eyed Susan. So I have, like, I've been around different. I experienced a lot of different things out in what we call the population, but I like to, like, tell stories and help people and reach out and maybe educate people on and try to make the stories relatable. And this is like when I write my comic books, it's more for like the casual reader, which is someone that's not really into comic books. And so a story like A Black-Eyed Susan, it'll be for people that don't normally follow like superhero comic books and things of that nature. Is an actual a real story, even though it's fictional. It's a real story that people can follow and understand and appreciate and share with others. So, but I just wanted to just create a great perspective on, this character, which is her name is Susie, and is just, just showing her world from her perspective. So that's kind of
I had the privilege of reading A Black-Eyed Susan, and I told you, like, when I read it, I had to read it a second time because it was very
yeah.
deep to me and different from a lot of comic books. But I gotta ask, how did you come up with the name of Black-Eyed Susan?
So it's funny. I was I was in New Orleans, and I was leaving New Orleans on a vacation, and we stopped at a conservatory on the way back, and it was all these sunflowers that was in full bloom outside, and the lady that worked there was pretty knowledgeable of it. And I saw like a little postcard that said a black-eyed Susan, and then she said that that's what those are called. I'm thinking like they're sunflowers, but she says it's a black-eyed Susan,
Wow.
and I was thinking like, oh, okay, well that's neat. And then I don't know, it was like my mind got to working, and I was like, well, I can create a story about a little black girl named Susan, but she likes to be called Susie for short, and just paint her as this delicate flower. So throughout the story, she's as innocent and delicate as a flower, but she's learned to like grow and bloom. And throughout the story, she does, sort of speak, grow and bloom like a sunflower would be. And that was just kind of the way I came up with that. But I also wanted to kind of incorporate my different experiences working with children with autism, and as well as children in a life skill setting. So I've worked with you know um, a lot of different types of people that have the intellectual disabilities as well as physical disabilities, and I was able to kind of incorporate a lot of that in my experience into the book, but also want to focus on parenthood
Hmm.
and the importance of you know having a balance of a mother figure and as well as a need for a father figure, but the struggle of a mother trying to understand how to, cater to her daughter's needs. Because, when I was working in the school district, I would see it. I would see like, well, um, a mother may be busy. They trying to understand how to, whether the child has special needs or not. You would see that there's a balance that they have to achieve for that child to be, just to have a good stable environment for their child. And if they don't cater to their child's needs, then it feels like neglect. And
Hmm.
with Susie and her story is that she's innocent through it all, and what they learn to grow together, and then you at the end of the story you'll see the importance of it all and trying to just have just a balanced lifestyle at home, a balanced family life. And I think that's what we all should strive for, as well as the dream of people that may have a relative with a disability, particularly a parent that has a child with a disability. They want to strive for them to be as independent as possible, gain some sense of just being as normal as everyone else their age, and sometimes they're kind of behind the curve of development, which is why I kind of focused the story on Susie having those limitations of understanding things or being able, where when she speaks, then it's like very limited on her
Hmm.
speech or very limited on her, comprehension. But like I said, she's very innocent through it all. But that's why I structured everything, the text, the narration, the dialogue is all written in haiku poetry form, which is very unique. So I mean, I would consider this like the first of its kind because you'll never see um, a comic book story written all through haiku, like from
Hmm.
start to begin, like from beginning to finish, and it's a very unique thing. Now I've seen some stories where they're written in haiku, but those are more so like books, traditional books, but not in a comic book setting, as well as working with the illustrator to illustrate everything. So I had to really it's like you're writing like three different stories and putting it all together, three different types of stories, with the illustration, the story and way it goes, and as well as the dialogue and the interactions, and to see it come to life is a great thing, and for people to, read the story and understand it and appreciate it and actually like it. I think that's a great achievement for me,
And
you know.
you did a great job with this. Like I said, I read it once. I had to read it again, and
Yeah,
it was a lot of life in this comic.
right.
Um, and it touched some areas that I have not seen a comic book touch before, all in um, just this one.
Right.
Um, I did like the speech part. I actually went through because I was like, oh my God, okay. Syllables, you have to
Yeah, and
pay
that's the other
attention.
thing too, is educating people on what a
Yes,
haiku
yes,
is. So some people are
yes.
familiar with it and they're like, wow. And then if you're not, you're learning something because it's
Yes.
three line poem, first line
Mhm.
5 syllables, second line 7 syllables, third line 5 syllables, and those are each considered poems. So it's sort of like a comic poetry book, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's like everything just mashed up into one, but it's just about making it work and making it fit. That was a challenge for me, and I'm
Hmm.
so glad I got to do it. So yeah,
You did it wonderfully well.
and I tried to
Um,
make it to where if you read it a second time, you will get more.
and you gotta
Because
read
some things
it.
catch you off guard. Yeah,
You got to read it twice, and I'll tell you, I had a hard time putting it down. And for me, I've worked in the field for a long time. I told you I have a sister with a disability, and she's on the spectrum as well. And what you find out is a lot of people who are on the spectrum come from broken homes.
hmm,
So in our household, my mother, she was a single mother. Um, my sister's father, when he found out she was special needs, he kind of was like, I don't know what to do. And, he kind of
yeah,
left the scene. So I understood that. But it's also seeing the world through Susie eyes. And
right,
it helps with explaining some of that. Now, I want to ask about like the father figure and how did you come up with how you was going to handle that in this book without giving out too many details because people do have to
Well,
read it.
yeah, it
But
shows like as far as her mother, she's really trying to like, just kind of do what she want to do, but she doesn't want to slow down yet. And there was no father figure, and what she would kind of start off in the story was telling her daughter that, well, she doesn't have a father don't exist. And for Susie to believe that, babies come from storks,
Mhm.
like when I was little, my mom, she told me that, babies came from storks until like, until I got like a little older, and then you realize, oh, this, so I think it was just pretty funny and neat, but at the same time, this is how she was growing up, and this is what she was told, this is what she taught, this is what she believed, this is what she saw. And then but it's just about, but the if there's no, like I said, it like the family structure, it lacks the balance if, the mother is like trying to take care of everything, and the mother has to be like the mother and sometimes be the father too, you know. Then like I said, so it does touch on, achieving some type of balance so where everybody becomes whole, one way or another. Um, but it was just, but for both of them to realize, like, having that balanced structure in a home, two-parent home, that's the American dream, So that's
Yeah.
kind of, but I mean, people do say that it does help, like a child better if the parents split, or you have to look at the effects of it on the child when they don't have like the father presence around, or a male presence around, or something to like kind of fill that void, because I spoke to a principal at a school about my first book about a father and son bond, and he was saying that at the school what he will see is that you will see a lot of females come, like the mothers, the aunts, whoever, grandmothers. They're very active in the child's life, but then that you don't see a father presence much, or the male presence much. And then the idea was to have like a mentorship program with men to get men more involved with children in the school setting, because some of the complaints of some of the kids or the students, they would say, well, they don't have like any male role models around to really
Mm.
help them, show them certain things, because it's like if a man's trying to raise his child, then a woman can come and try to, show and balance everything out with the feminine aspects of, this is what you got to do, this is what you should do. And then a man comes in and he does that part as well for like the male aspect of everything. But it's hard on one parent to do like both sides, So it's like I said, it's all about the balance. And in Susie's life, that it starts off with, 2/3 of the story, there is the imbalance, you know,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, but what effect does that have on her, and then how does that relate to other people, it can,
But
and good things for people relate, you know.
we see that Susie is lucky because she does have a grandmother who is
Right.
also involved. But you
Hmm.
also touch on some other areas that I had never thought about that even kind of made me reevaluate being a single mother.
Yeah.
Some of those was like, oh, mom's going out in tight clothes.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, especially, yeah, I mean, it happens, it's
Yeah.
like, all right, y'all go to bed, y'all go, grandma, I'm go out, you know, and it's, I mean, this is stuff that, I mean, people don't really talk about that, but it, like, it happens, like, I grew up, I saw my mom try to, like, smell nice, and, go out and do things or whatever, um, if she was trying to get with had a boyfriend or something. And then the way my mother was that, well, she wouldn't really bring some of the guys that she was dating around me, you know.
Hmm.
That's like a whole nother step. It's like you can date, but is it okay to bring that person around your child, or can you have public displays of affection around your child? And if you do, then it's like, okay, is that the right thing to do or not? And then you gotta kind of, like adults do adult things, but what do they do when they think nobody's watching? And then when a child sees them, then that's when they gotta stop and think and say, okay, am I doing the right thing or not? If they care. So that's the thing. It's like, well, what do people do when behind closed doors? This is the
Mhm.
things that go on. I mean, but it happens like, way often than you think. It's just people don't really
Yes.
broadcast it, but it
It
happens.
does, and I mean it, and you have to think about how does a person who thinks literally or
Mhm.
on the spectrum feel about that, and you touch like some parts of sexuality with this as well
Mhm.
as same sex dating and
Yeah.
uh,
I think that was kind of a, creative liberty that I took, but it shows like, okay, it just paints a picture of, okay, this is the lifestyle mom is exploring.
mhm.
But if Susie sees it and she gets caught with her seeing it, then it's like, okay, now then she has to pause and say, wait a minute, let me reset,
Yeah.
or maybe this isn't right now, And then
And
Susie's
it's
and then Susie's confused, right? So it
right.
is like, yeah, it was like a play on everything. Yeah.
And I like that. I went to a workshop once, and it talked about this. Well, the presenter at the workshop talked about disability as well as, you know, also having sexual tendencies and, watching things on TV and thinking that's the way it is in the real world. So I understood a section when Susie likes a boy and,
Yeah.
going forward and having to explain those differences. So I thought that was very well thought of because we missed the mark so many times in not letting young adults with a disability know that, yeah, in movies you see a guy walk up and he kisses a girl and well that could
But
be
I said
sexual assault.
but that's the thing is that, most kids now, I mean, even when, we were growing up, it's like you're raised on what you see on TV.
Hmm.
TV and movies, and some books, children's books, they kind of raise you in a way and teach you certain things, so that's why it's like, so you already know just from watching certain TV shows, whether you're watching Sesame Street, you're watching Barney, uh you know anything, all those different types of shows. I mean, even like GI Joe, like these are the men that do the masculine stuff, and this, you see all these things growing up and it shapes you,
Yeah,
but you have an idea at a certain age, okay, a man and a woman, just from watching, a lot of the TV shows and things like that. I mean, if you're watching, Full House, or you're watching Family Matters, or even Martin, it's like,
yeah,
Friends, whatever, you're into, all that shapes everything growing up, or even watching the stuff as a teenager or as a young adult. A lot of things that we see, is shaped and it's constantly reinforced. And then you have, your family dynamics that also teach you certain things as well. So like your parents could be like very religious with this religion, and then you might have another set of relatives that are like, they have things that are different, and sometimes they clash, but you still get exposed to like the different perspectives,
yeah,
but they're still like, so when you become, you're growing up, you're just being shaped for the most part. Your perspective of life is being shaped, and then when you become an adult, then that's when you're supposed to like figure things out. And if you don't figure things out by a certain age, like Susie's mother, then you're just going to be kind of out there exploring more until you do learn, okay, I got to really settle down. This is what I really need to do. If I'm going to do the right thing and get it together right now, this is what I need to do. And and like for her mother, like she's going to do it for her daughter, and
and
if her
and I
daughter,
think
yeah.
I just want to say I think this comic is also a great comic book for people who don't read comic books at all that
Yeah.
have a child with special needs, single parents, grandmothers, even like counselors or educational system. Um, and one thing that's really cleverly done in this book is if you pay close attention, Susie does progress.
Yeah.
She starts to speak a lot better. It talks about her
Hmm.
learning. I mean, it's a lot that's in here. You even
And
go as
this,
far
and
as,
this,
yeah,
and because the book is written all in haiku poetry
yes.
form, and then she has the poetry teacher that's teaching her how to get better speaking through
Mhm.
poetry. You know, it was like so much thrown in. But like I said, that's the goal of a person with special needs is that, you know, you'll like I've been in art meetings and
Mhm.
and all of that, and they'll have goals, and the goal is to get this child to the student to, you know, progress and do better and speak better, or whatever they're behind in, you know, for their age range, you know, is, you know, and the families will advocate for it to where they want their child to, you know, just progress through life and be more independent, where the parent doesn't have to care and do as much, you know, just like any other normal child. You know, you want your child to grow up and be independent, take care of themselves. You want to keep doing everything for them, but if you do, then that's just your job and your duty that you owe to your child. You know, so I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So what Susie is like is it starts off as sort of a trouble story that she's innocent in, but when you get to the end, it does it is considered a happy ending. You know,
I
it
think
does.
so too.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What is next for a Black Eyed Susan? Are we going to continue the series? What is up
Yeah,
from here?
yeah, like I said, I wasn't sure because I think a lot of the issues and things like that nature, it was overcame, right? And then she
Mhm.
gets to the, and then they all become whole for the most, you know, for the most part.
Mhm.
So it's like if I was to continue her story, then well, what would be next? So I wasn't really sure because it was like I kind of just ended it because, you know, I don't know if the story would work, you know. So I was like, well,
I think you're onto something here. I most
yeah.
definitely, think it would work. But can we touch a little bit on why you decided to start writing?
Well, so I've always been in the comic books. You know, I always read comic books growing up. You know, when I got to college, um, I was still reading some comic books, and then I took a break for like a really long time. And then during the pandemic, you know, I got back into reading some comic books. So I started reading. I was big into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was little. As I was little, right?
So was
So
I. First concert I
yeah,
ever went to.
I never got out of it. So they made a book called The Last Ronin, and it was about the turtles in the future. And then they're in this a war going on, and three of the Ninja Turtles died, and there's one surviving. This is Last Ronin, and he goes and tries to take vengeance for his brothers. And that got me. It was an interesting story. It got me back into reading comics at that point, and then I just started going back. You know, because the world changed around me. You know, it was like we're not going out, we're not doing. I just stayed and I started collecting books, reading comic books, and my son was very much into all the comic book movies. You know, so he learned about like the comic book movies and comic books just from watching like the cartoons, the TV shows, the internet, things like that. And we shared that, and he was huge in the anime. Like I'm in the old school anime, which is like
Nice.
Ghost in the Shell and Princess Mononoke, you know, Ninja Scroll, that type of stuff, Cowboy Bebop. That's the stuff I'm into, but I don't follow like all the newer stuff. But he was in like all the newer stuff, you know. So we shared that. But then in 2022, you know, he passed away. My son died by suicide, and when he passed away, he was 14 years old, and I was with him when he did it, and that was just a big shock because I didn't know that he was in that type of trouble. So what I did was, I believe like a year later, I started writing a book based on a selfie that me and my boy took, and it was one of our favorite selfies that we took because it was from my birthday the year before he passed away. So I made a story, um, and it was a fictional story, and it was I completed it with the illustrator in about 2024. So around April 2024, I completed it. So I don't know if you can see it, but this is a picture, the selfie with me and my boy, and
Mhm.
we was on a safari, and this pet goat, um, he took the selfie with us. So we thought that was funny. And this is my boy up here, you know. So this is him, and I made a fictional story called Langley, and this is the cover for it, right? And this is the father, he loses his son, but the son comes back. They have a journey together with the pet goat. So that was a fictional story I made. And, you know, so in the story, basically, it's like his son passes away, but he comes back in supernatural form. But somehow only the father sees him, and now they got to figure out life together moving forward. They don't know why it's like that, and they have a pet goat as well. But I just based the story based off of the selfie that I made, and I found an illustrator to help me bring it to life. And people really love the idea of this book. I mean, it does talks about like loss, grief, things like that. But that's what got me into writing a comic book. I never thought I would, write a comic book. I would read comic books. I never thought about doing it. I thought about it like back when I was in college, but I couldn't afford an illustrator. So, and I don't know how to draw. So what I
Mhm.
did was I just sat down and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna figure this out. And I had an idea for the story, and I put it together. I went to a comic book writing course, and it was at Gulf Coast Cosmos. It was a black-owned
I've
comic
heard
book.
of Gulf Coast. Some of
Yeah,
our committee members go there often.
yeah. So I went there, and it was a guy. He makes comic books, and his name is Fobbs Lane, and I was like his only student. I showed up for the class. I'm the only student there because and I told him like I have an idea for this story, but I don't know how to go about everything. And he gave me some pointers on how to find an illustrator, and that's when I got to create my first comic book. And but my son is like the reason I got it. I never thought I would do that, and then people liked it. And then when I came across doing a Black Eyed Susan, then I just went ahead and I thought that was a good idea as well to do a story like that. I mean, the inspiration for that story it is strange because it was like I saw a flower and I was like, I made this whole story based off of this, inspired by this flower, but I tried to make it work.
You
And that's
made it work.
yeah, thank you.
And I'm
So
a
that's
big fan of sunflowers, and I never knew they were called Black Eyed Susan. I've grown
well,
a
it's a
bit.
type. Yeah, it's a type of sunflower.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a type of sunflower. So I mean, because you have like the typical sunflower, then you have a Black Eyed Susan, which it appears to be like skinnier than a regular like traditional stereotypical looking
Hmm.
sunflower. So and yeah, so that's but that's what I did. So it was like a learning thing for me, but to teach people about like, okay, yeah, there's a Black Eyed Susan, but there's also people with intellectual disabilities. There's struggles with how do you raise a person, with the intellectual disability, and it also touches on other children that have physical disabilities. And
Hmm.
I worked in a life skills class, so I kind of, and you have a special education classroom setting, and you have like students with different diagnosis, and they'll all be put in one class together. And then but they all got to learn and figure out everything together, and each child would have their own curriculum, so to speak,
Hmm.
on what their different set of goals. So like in the beginning of a Black Eyed Susan, she's with a psychologist, and
And
they go
she's in
over
the
all the
classroom. You
yeah, they go over all
discussed
the
her.
diagnoses, and they say, okay, we're going to assign you to this class with these diagnoses, and then you see pretty much her classmates, and then you see her, go her school setting. But I also showed how a child in special education, and there's students in general education, general ed, and they don't want to socialize with children in special education. So you see
Mm.
that in the book as well, where it's like Susie like appears and looks normal, but because she has the label, the regular kids don't want to socialize with her. So she can't make friends with them or be considered like part of the in crowd or whatever. So in her story, like I said, is a happy ending, so to speak, because she achieves it. She gets that. And I mean, but that doesn't happen for everybody. That's not
Oh,
everybody's reality. But some people it is. Some people
yeah.
do get that. And this is like a story for her where it's like a success story, sort of in terms of like school. So that's what yeah, I get to point all that out and show that. But I see that like, working with schools, because I still would work with schools. I work with, CPS and APS and a lot of different people in jail, people in state hospitals, people in state support living center. I get to work with a lot of variety of different people with different issues and concerns, and you know, the it's always to try to have a plan and a goal for this person, each person,
Mhm. Well, I want to
even if
thank
they
you.
vary.
I want to thank you for that. My sister, she lives in Lufkin State Supported School, and I know it takes
Oh,
special
okay.
people, you
Hmm.
know, to be in that field of work and to dedicate their lives, put their bodies on the line too, and their mental to go
Oh, yeah.
in and to help
Yeah.
out. So, with that being said, Kerry, I want to know what's next for you. What do you plan on doing in the future as far as comic books
Well,
go?
well,
And
it's funny because yeah, because I have my first book, Langley. I was able to get it on Amazon, about a month ago. So I got it on there successfully.
and
It
I
took me
gotta
a
get
while.
that one too. I gotta get and we gotta discuss
Yes.
language. That's beautiful.
So yeah, so I got it on Amazon for people, because what I've been doing is just selling them hand in hand. I have my website, people can order it, and I can sign it and mail it to them, things like that. And Black Eyed Susan, um, I was able to get the proof copy, so I'm going through the review process right now. So hopefully in about a week, then this will be up on Amazon too. So that's what I'm
Woohoo!
working on now. But that's just a whole different ballgame, putting stuff on Amazon and trying to get the word out and circulate and say, oh, this is what I have this book. But the good thing is I get positive feedback from, a lot of people out there, and learn to work with different groups and things like that for both books, because one book touches on, fatherhood, grief, loss, and families can read that. And then this book, it is dealing with, autism, intellectual disability, as well as, you know, in this case, like the mother trying to raise her daughter and everything. So I'm just right now I'm at the point of just trying to just get out more, speak more about what I'm doing with my two books, to circulate them more, and just explore this new territory, because my first book I came out with a year ago.
Mhm.
And then Black Eyed Susan, I was able to have it completed and out in April of this year. And then next year, I'll just and I'm still learning stuff. So I'm a fairly new author, a comic book author, and like I said, and I work with different illustrators. So the illustrator for this book,
Mhm.
uh, the person that did the cover art, he's in Nigeria, and
Okay.
the illustrator that did all of the illustrations in the story,
Mhm.
the whole story, he's residing in Australia.
So
And
they
my
just
first Yeah, in my first book, the author, the illustrator, he's in Indonesia.
okay.
Hmm.
So you have connections around the world.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the thing is like me. I'm at the point in my life where I've learned to like work with a lot of different people on different things and projects, and live events and things like that. So like I work with like a lot of different artists, like comedians and poets, and I've worked with some music artists as well. But now I'm at the point where I'm able to transition to do this as well. So, but like I said, I enjoy writing the stories. I mean, I like consider myself a storyteller, and I can write about
I think
different
you're a
things.
great storyteller.
Yeah,
And to
thank
be
you.
able to do this, you have to be a people's person. You have to be a person with a great heart. And I'm so happy that I had the opportunity and chance to talk to you.
Hmm.
Would you mind telling people how to find you on social media as well as your website and what you have coming up or where they can meet you in person? This is your time to do a
Yes.
shameless plug of all
Oh
that.
yeah, that's no problem. So so the thing, so you can reach me if you just Google TheKyleBlue, or you type TheKyleBlue on Facebook, Instagram, X. Right, I gotta get used to saying X now. X.
I still say
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah. I say yeah. I had to catch myself. X. So, but yeah, if you just type TheKyleBlue, you'll find a lot of my information as well as my website. My website is www.theincrediblekyleblue.com, and you can
Mhm.
order my books if you want me to sign you a copy and mail it to you. Then you can go on theincrediblekyleblue.com to get a copy of my books. And as far as events for next year, I'm doing a comedy show. I have some comedians coming out New Year's Eve, December 31st. But the show is in Hitchcock, Texas,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's yes, and it's a venue. The venue's called Daiquiris on Six. They've been supporting, poetry and comedy events there, and they're a very good, great community of people. They welcome me to come out and put together and book talent to come out. But we're doing a comedy show on December 31st, and April 11th. I'll be doing a one-man show at Gulf Coast Cosmos,
All
and
right.
we'll be sending that out. So I did my comic book release for Black Eyed Susan at
Mm-hmm.
Gulf Coast Cosmos on July the 13th, the 713 day. So they had moved locations. They're still in Third Ward, but I got to be a part of that grand opening, and a lot of people came out for it. It was fun. I got to talk about both my books and Black Eyed Susan in particular, and it was exciting. So they're
Okay.
very supportive, and my books are in their stores as well. Uh, so
Okay.
so my books they're in Gulf Coast Cosmos, and my books is also in a place called Creo, Creo, and that's in the Heights area, and that's a bookstore. They sell like holistic type products and a whole lot of like really neat things there. But they just about a week ago they put my book in their store. So yeah, so I'm
That's
slowly moving
great.
around, getting my books in different places.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm sure we will definitely see more of you. And I would like to thank you on behalf of Disability Comic Con for creating books that are well needed and,
Hmm.
that go across the spectrum of readers, parents, educators, family members,
Right.
um, grandparents, everybody. Because
Yeah.
we all know somebody that has a disability, and this is very informational. Um, it's a really clever read, and I'm happy that I got the chance and opportunity to read it and to interview you. So thank you very much for being a
Thank you.
part of this experience. And hopefully we will have you at Disability Comic Con
Oh yeah.
this year.
Yes. Okay.
Uh,
Awesome. Well, I say other than that, I'll say yeah, happy holidays, happy New Year. I appreciate this. Your outfit looks awesome.
no, thank you. Thank you. Like I said, I just came from a mini con.
That's what everybody's
Um,
waiting on is a new X-Men movie, and everybody's fighting to play Storm. So we'll see what they
I
do.
know, I know. So getting into that also, I gotta rewind. Who is your favorite villain?
Well, I think you can consider him a villain, but I like the Predator.
Okay,
I'm
why do you choose to play?
I'm what you call a pred head, so I love the Predator, and like I'm a part of like the Predator community, so to speak. So we had this video game we play called Predator Hunting Grounds, and that's a community of people that play that and stream that. But yeah, I don't know. I always love the Predator. I mean, I would say he's pretty much a villain for the most part. The last movie made him more of like the main protagonist, which was it was neat. That was cool. So
Okay,
I did see the new movie 2 weeks ago, but yeah, I think the Predator's cool. I mean, he's just but he has a code he lives by. They have a discipline, a code. It's ruthless, but it's a discipline, a code. I understand it. It's very savage. But it's just I don't know. It's just neat to watch. I don't know. I'm just fascinated with their world. And when
okay.
they
And
come
if
to
you
our
had
world,
I'm sorry. And if you had a superpower, which would it be?
that's a funny thing, man. I think I know I've always been big on the Incredible Hulk. So I'd be like Hulk smash. Just you know, get big and get crazy. But I mean, I thought about this too. I had a friend of mine, and he would always tell me that my superpower is being able to just work with like a lot of different people, and that's not an easy task. It's not something that he tries to do. So when I'm out whether I'm my job or I'm out working with different artists or things like that, even when making my comic book, that was like a collaboration that I had to
Mm-hmm.
do with the illustrator. Like that is a true collaboration. It's just me and one illustrator to do the whole thing. And that's what he said my superpower is. And I believe him now because I've done a lot of things and people have come together for me, and um, a lot of people have showed up for me that I didn't think would expect, but I appreciate it. And but yeah, but if I could have like a comic book superpower, yeah, I'll be like a Hulk smash, just get big and bully everybody. Even though
Okay.
I'm not a bully in real life though.
I can see that. I believe that. So, if you had to pick Marvel or DC,
Oh man, I don't. I mean, I think I've probably been more into like reading Marvel.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, I really do like some DC stories out there, but I think when like 'cause I still go to comic book shops, so when I do buy stories, I do tend to buy more of the Marvel stuff, and I read, but I do read a lot of Spawn.
okay,
So Spawn is Image, so I read a lot of Image stuff. But yeah, if it was like Marvel DC, I would say Marvel because I love the Punisher. That was like
okay.
that was my favorite. Back in college when they reintroduce, they always reintroduce the Punisher from time to time. They introduce him again, so I got to check out the new series. But I always love the Punisher, even though he's psychotic and stuff. I don't know what that says about me. I'm over here like, oh yeah, I like all these violent superheroes and villains, but I mean, I always
And
like,
you're friendly. You're super friendly. And
yeah,
I'll end on this question. What is the best advice that you have to give?
the gift. My advice is, just stay positive, move forward. I live by inspiration is all around us. So you'll be amazed at some things that can inspire you, whether you acknowledge it or not. There's always something to like push you in a certain direction. But for me, I live my life just trying to be positive. Like when I lost my son, I didn't be mad or take it out on anyone. I had to accept it and move forward and be an example and show people like this is how you move forward. Just be positive and you know yeah, just try to do good. You do good, and then if you're fortunate enough, good will come back to you, right?
Mm.
So yeah, but if you do bad stuff gonna keep coming around you.
Well, I know he's very proud of you
Oh
and
yeah,
sorry for your loss. And um,
yeah. The book kind of keeps his memory going in a positive, good, happy way. Like he didn't not to be remembered in a sad way, but to be
mhm.
remembered in a positive way. And people that knew him and didn't know him, they get to see my book, and they get to see that
Memory lives on, he lives
memory.
on.
hmm So maybe one day I'll write a follow up to Langley, and then I'll see about a Black Eyed Susan and what's next for her.
Well, I'll
I'm
be first in line and I'll be waiting. And thank you again for your positivity, your great spin on life, and for being a beacon of hope and light. And thank you again for this interview.
right. Thank you. And keep rocking that storm. That's cool. It works
Thank you.
for
I
you.
will try my best.
That's cool. All right. All right. No problem. Other than that, thank you.